Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare. Welcome back to LA Noire. And that train almost killed her. Oh, and we've got a left-handed killer again.
We will look into it.
Yes, I'm aware that it's an election year. Keep a hold of your hat, Counselor. Now is not the time to lose your nerve. It would appear that someone has hocked a rose gold wedding ring and matching engagement ring. Sound familiar?
Deirdre Muller.
Press the pawnbroker and see what you can find out. The address is 348 South Main Street. The Muller case goes before the grand jury next week, and the DA does not want any egg on his face. Then get out to the railroad depot on Santa Fe Avenue. We have another poor unfortunate found this morning beside a railroad line. 40-year-old white woman.
Right, Skipper.
I believe Muller was the second case.
Don't talk to my breath.
I'm at a loss.
We need to follow up this lead from the pawnbroker, Phelps.
She was the one, the wife of Hugo Muller.
Another body, and Deirdre Muller's ring. The Emperor may soon have to come to terms with the fact that he's wearing no clothes.
What exactly did you get that book of riddles shoved up your ass, Phelps? Is that what your old man paid college tuition for?
His mother would be proud of him catching all those criminals.
Yeah, I'm thinking of moving up to a 45. I want to put him down to one round.
Alright, you'll notice there are no yellow flags here, so we're going to have to select the pawnbroker specifically, because we could have gone to the rail yard instead.
You drive. I need to go over the case notes.
You've got to admit, this is looking odd.
Anyone could pawn a ring.
But if you take it along with all of the other indicators...
Cole, Hugo Muller was identified by the school's groundkeeper. He's our guy.
Witnesses have fingered the wrong guy before.
He ran, for God's sake.
And he always maintained he was set up.
So I guess they must have let that one pedophile go then. Gone after Hugo instead. Yeah, they'll say the same thing no matter who you finger in that case. Sort of implies that the real purpose was to keep him off the streets.
How can I help you boys?
Detectives Phelps and Galloway, LAPD. You have a rose gold wedding and engagement ring?
David Bremner. Am I gonna get something for this pledge? Gave that bum money, now you guys are gonna leave me short.
How much did you give him?
$50?
Try another number.
20?
Try 10. Feel lucky you're getting it.
I have the rings right here.
What's this mark here?
Maker's mark. Usually traceable. That one came from Hartfield's Jewelry down on Broadway.
Thanks for the tip.
It's not really a lead or anything, but still.
Does this mark mean anything?
Hallmark. Gives you an idea of the quality.
Again, interesting fact, not useful evidence.
What have you got on the guy who brought these in?
Goes by the name of Percy B. Shelley. Gave an address. 15 Poland Street, London, Tulare County.
Can you give us a description of the man who pawned these rings?
Not sure. Medium height, medium build. Dark hair, I think. Sorry. He just had one of those forgettable faces.
We'll be in touch, Mr. Bremner.
Ah, wait. Where did the clipboard go? Right, I guess that's the end of that. Just gonna head to the rail yard now. In fact, I think I'm going to drive.
We have a problem.
We could have the local troopers check out the Blair County address.
The address is bogus. Purpose having fun with us. The guy who's been sending the Dahlia letters is also the guy who's pawning the rings.
How do you figure that?
Percy Bysshe Shelley wrote the poem that came with the Dahlia letter. The Dahlia letters are genuine. The man who killed Elizabeth Short may have also killed Deirdre Mullen.
And how do we prove that, Phil? Skipper ain't gonna like this one.
We're gonna have to rely on this guy tripping up on his own vanity.
KGPL to all units. Citizen reports man with a gun. Union and Rockwood Street. Union and Rockwood Street. Unit to handle code 2. Identify.
Yeah, that's a street crime. I've been ignoring those because they're not relevant to the actual cases. Also, I kind of got lost.
You boys ready? Follow me.
We should keep this development with the rings under our hat until we speak to the captain.
We're all on the same team, Rusty.
Chain of command, Phelps. The skipper will decide who needs to know. Got it?
I get it, Rusty. Just don't.
Whoops. I think that was the last line.
Hard, isn't it?
Yeah. I look after all the rail depots.
What have you got?
The Negro, Nelson Gaines, called it in. I came down here to make sure him and the other guy, Jameson, stuck around.
Jameson found the body?
Something like that. Guy makes me sick.
We'll talk to the coroner. Keep an eye on both of them. What have we got here?
White female, approximately 40 years of age, lipstick smudges on the face, but no writing, at least nothing legible. A blunt force trauma to the temple, nose, and eye regions. Ligature marks point to the probable cause of death being strangulation.
Any idea of the time of death?
From her temperature, after midnight would be my guess.
Once again, we've got a variation.
Smell?
Very good. There is the usual evacuation smell, but it appears she's been living rough for quite some time.
Very strong smell of alcohol.
Well, the autopsy will tell, but I would assume that she was inebriated.
Bashed in head. Strangled. But her clothes are still on, there's no messages, and no evidence of stomping. Oh, but this is familiar, though.
Another missing ring.
Certainly seems I've been swabbing a lot of bare fingers recently.
Can you be more exact about the time of death?
No later than 2 a.m. The state the body was in, a 1 or 2 hour window is the best I can do.
Fingernails are broken. She might have struggled before she died. Or if she's been living off the street, she might have just broken them under other conditions.
Maybe someone at Mensch's will remember her. This is a chit for personal items, not booze. It's an angle worth investigating.
Yeah, interesting to see that on a liquor store receipt, I guess. Also interesting that everything's nice and clean and laid out on this blanket. Let's see.
Someone was trying to get her to come home.
Yeah. In contact with a sanitarium back in Connecticut.
We could go over to the lot and see what they know about her.
That's gonna be difficult, Cole. The Keystone Studio lot closed back in 41.
Must have been Poverty Row. That'll happen.
What are you thinking, Ray?
The city keeps tossing us dead bodies. We're just running to catch up.
Stay out of my way, and I will stay out of yours. Everybody's happy.
I love how hostile he is.
Detective Phelps and Galloway, homicide. Can you tell me exactly what happened?
We were shutting cars over to the main line when I saw this man here lying on top of this woman. The woman wasn't moving and seemed to be in a bad way.
What time was this?
About 7:30 this morning, sir.
Thanks for your help. Have you given Patrolman Hart your details?
I have, sir.
Thank you. You can go now.
Oh, now you even got to interview him. Okay.
Detective Phelps, LAPD homicide.
John Ferdinand Jameson.
We need you to answer some questions, John.
If you don't mind, I prefer Ferdinand.
Don't push your luck, knucklehead.
What were you doing to the body, Ferdinand?
Are you sure you won't be upset?
Try me, Ferdinand.
I was kissing her. It's not against the law.
Shut up.
There's no
Take
law
your
against
beating
it.
like a man.
Turn out your pockets, Ferdinand.
Uh-oh.
Classic Carmine.
Used, too.
Is this yours, Ferdinand?
No. I found it near her purse. I thought she could use some lipstick.
Rusty, stop! Don't hit him.
Not until after I'm done interviewing it.
You went through her purse?
It wasn't like she needed it. Took a look.
So you kill women and interfere with them. That's your M.O., Jameson?
I know some people might find what I do unusual, but I don't kill people. How can you prove that I killed this woman?
Looks like I was mistaken.
Did you take any money?
Wasn't any to take. I found her lipstick and her matchbook over on the mat. Not much else.
You found the body?
Yes, I did. I work here. I was coming off shift and headed home.
You're lying, Jameson. You lured this poor woman out here and killed her.
You're crazy. What makes you say I killed her?
Again, with the same thing.
It's nothing personal. I'm just doing my job. You understand that?
Why didn't you report the body, Jameson? Do you know how this is going to look to a jury?
A jury? What gives? I could tell that she was dead. I came through here about midnight last night. She wasn't here then.
Let me belt him again.
You're under arrest, Jameson. We'll see how this plays out. Until then, you can think a little on how you'd like to be treated if you were found dead.
I'm telling you, it's not illegal. Me and some friends of mine...
Clyde, you get this sack of shit into a cell. I'll deal with him later.
Sure, Rusty.
What's this?
Blood splatter on the carriage. She must have been struck while standing up.
I guess it's not a clue, but it is an interesting detail.
Cole Phelps, badge 1247.
How can I help, Detective?
I need an address on Levine's Liquor. Closest store to the Santa Fe Avenue rail yard, if possible.
Just a moment, Detective. Closest store would be the one at 939 South Hope Street.
Thanks for your help.
All right. We got Mench's Bar as an address, too, so... I think the liquor store first. Seems like that's where she was sleeping, after all.
You can drive.
Read that those goddamn Chinese want to sell the relief food that we're sending them?
Yeah, I read about that.
People are starving. They can't do that.
want to sell the food to fund the civil war against the communists.
Really? Guess that's okay then.
Armies can't fight without food. You spend all your money on weapons, but you still have to have the will to fight. Fortunately, the Reds will win in China.
Watch your mouth. You know what you're saying?
The people of this country overthrew a king. You think the Chinese will balk at an emperor if they are starving?
At least he isn't giving that as a pep talk to U.S. Marines on Okinawa.
What can I do for you?
LAPD, Phelps and Galloway. We're making inquiries into the murder of Evelyn Summers.
Evelyn? She's dead?
You knew Evelyn Summers, Mr.
Robbins. Yes, I knew Evelyn. I was a good friend of her ex-husband. She kept some of her stuff here.
Can you show us, please?
Sure. Come this way.
Say, that's a pretty girl dressed in that nurse's aide uniform. Do you know who she looks like?
Yeah. Why, you're right, Durgan.
You got some fine stock here, Mr. Robbins. You know, you let us take some for the road, this case might get solved a lot quicker.
He's joking, Mr. Robbins.
She kept a bed here, but I probably shouldn't have let her. An alcoholic in a liquor store. That was never going to work out, was it?
Probably not.
We'll take a look around.
We got a whole bunch of stuff over here. What few mementos she could hold on to.
Rawlings Bowling Alley. Maybe Evelyn did something other than drink in her spare time.
Rawlings. I know that place. Corner of 9th and Grand. A lot of cops bowl there on Tuesday nights.
And of course, Phelps needs to be told this fact.
I'm guessing Evelyn hadn't held down a job for quite some time before she was killed.
When exactly did Evelyn work in the pictures?
A few years ago. She worked in legal copyrights for music.
So what'd she get the award for?
Evelyn was reading Aristotle?
Evelyn wasn't stupid. The only stupid thing about her was her need to drink.
And she was borrowing books from Grosvenor McCaffrey.
Man, that is an awkward name. Grosvenor.
She wasn't always such a loner.
Interesting, but not evidence.
Let me take another whiff.
We're trying to account for Evelyn's movements yesterday.
She came by in the morning.
A social visit? To pick up some of her things?
She had a couple of bucks and bought a quart of rye.
Any idea where the money came from?
She didn't mention it, but she did say the booze was a present for a boy. She said they had been fighting and she had to make it up to him.
Were you and Evelyn close, Mr. Robbins?
Not many people will be sad she's gone. I'll be one of the few.
We got the impression that Evelyn had been sleeping rough of late.
It became difficult for me to have her staying here. Her mother was trying to get her back on the straight and narrow. She's old now. And to be honest, you have to have a good reason to want to get back on.
Do you know a friend of Evelyn's by the name of McCaffrey?
Not personally.
We're struggling for leads, Robbins. Did she know McCaffrey?
She idolized him.
From what I gather, the feeling was far from mutual. He seems to peddle a revolutionary stance, fixing the ills of society. You could see how it would appeal to down-and-outs like Evelyn.
Thanks for your help, Mr. Robbins.
No problem. Hey, I'd like to make arrangements for the funeral. You think I could get in touch with Evelyn's mother?
Put in a call to the watch commander at Central Station, Mr. Robbins. He'll be trying to reach the next of kin.
Thanks. Get the guy, huh? Evelyn never hurt anybody.
I really like that performance. It's kind of understated, but it's exactly right for the kind of guy he's supposed to be, and the sort of relationship he would have had. Anyway, time to hit another bar.
You know the way. You can drive.
We are 4 for 5 now, and the 5th one has a missing space in her timeline that could have been a visit to a bar.
Drink, fellas.
Phelps, Galloway, homicide. We need to ask you some questions concerning Evelyn Summers.
I'm Walter Mensch. Evelyn Summers? What is it now?
You knew Evelyn?
As well as I wanted to know Evelyn. She's a pain in the ass, always coming in here, cadging drinks, never had any money. She was in just a couple of nights ago.
Did she ever tell you where she was staying?
I don't know. I think she was living rough. She had that kind of stunk about her.
Who did she drink with?
A bunch of these guys. Ask around.
A bunch of these guys, he says. There's only one person in the bar.
What's your name?
Grosvenor McCaffrey.
Mind if I ask you some questions, Mr. McCaffrey?
I'm just a starving writer, detective. What do you want to ask about?
Evelyn Summers, and why she was found beaten and strangled in the rail depot on Santa Fe.
Okay. I see your point.
How well did you know her?
I can't say that I knew her. It was more like I was aware of her.
Scream the details a little louder there, Cole.
Do you have a criminal record, Mr. McCaffrey?
Nothing serious. I've had a few skirmishes.
You want to save me some time, or do you want me to look up your file?
Industrial disputes, strikes, workers' rights, that kind of thing.
A regular 5th columnist. Nice to meet you, comrade.
You say you barely knew Evelyn?
Yes, that is correct.
You're lying, McCaffrey. You look down your nose at Evelyn, but you knew her, and you have some idea of what happened.
I hope you're holding aces. I'm telling you again, I barely knew the woman.
Well, luckily, I went to the liquor store first, and I found a book.
Why would you lend her your book on metaphysics if you only knew her in passing? It was more than that. A Renaissance man like yourself, lending his books to his acolytes.
She hounded me about that goddamn book, and then she lifts it from my apartment and lies to my face that she didn't take it, as if she could even comprehend any of it. I saw her go into a hotel with Tiernan last night. They had booze in a paper bag. He's your man.
Thank you for the information, Mr. McCaffrey.
Well, that probably explains what happened to that quart of rye. So Tiernan must be the boy she was arguing with. Well, maybe we can find something at Rawlings then.
Car 11K, Car 11 King, KGPL.
11 King.
A message from Captain Donnelly. Return to Central, code 2.
11 King, en route. Let's not keep the man waiting, Phelps.
Actually, I think I should keep the man waiting.
Take the next left.
It's sad. Apparently I was going in the wrong direction for the flag, unless... Oh, those sons of bitches. They moved the point. Alright, let's get back to, bowling alley.
What? Will you?
Whoops. Usually better at taking corners than that. Yeah, here we are. Ah, yes, the bowling alley. Place that's always quiet enough to let you hear a pin drop.
Hello, Rusty. Two on your usual lane?
I'm Detective Phelps. Homicide.
You must be new. What's your shoe size?
We're conducting an investigation, ma'am. Do you know the name Evelyn Summers?
Sounds like I should. Oh, maybe it could be Jimmy's friend.
Jimmy?
James Tiernan. He's a pin setter. One day he introduced me to a lady after work. It stuck in my mind because she was much older, too old for him.
Where can we find Jimmy, Florence?
He'll be hopping around the lanes toward the back.
Thanks, ma'am. Let's go get him.
I think he knows we're coming.
2 club sandwiches. Thank you, waitress.
Tiernan! LAPD!
Huh, I guess this won't be a foot race. So did Cole just assume the old lady was deaf or something? What was up with that?
What are you waiting for? Get after him!
We might go faster if we weren't carrying the extra weight. These are flashy cars to be parked outside a bowling alley.
The lanes attract a fast-living individual with money to burn.
Or a middle-aged individual with the need to feel virile.
I'm trying to shoot out his tires. Wish me luck. Hit it! Clean this asshole off the road.
Get his tires.
Another runner. At least we've got a suspect.
Why do they always run? I'm sure we've got the wrong person in more than one of these homicides, but they always seem to lam it.
You know, your theories are not airtight by any means.
Hit him, Cole! Spit him out!
Jesus, this car does not want to go down.
Get him for reckless endangerment.
That's unless he runs into a wall and saves us all the trouble.
Phelps, you gotta get me closer!
He's been running on 3 tires for a mile now. I think I just took out the door, too.
Going through the square!
I hope the people see him in time to get out of the way.
That's the end of that. About fucking time.
Yeah, no
Why did
kidding.
they run? Because someone said it.
Put your hands in the air!
Who knew a hot rod could be that durable? All right.
You're behind the wheel.
Now we can head back to Central Station.
I want to make a comment. I know you make it.
The captain is downstairs with Ray Pinker and Carruthers.
I think we bust in there and find the goddamn evidence.
That's the guy. I heard he's an honest cop.
Hey, I can run downstairs now.
What's this about, Captain?
Ray and Mal have some concerns over the Henry and Muller cases, which I don't want aired outside of this room.
The evidence is solid, Captain.
I agree, Rusty. It's just that corpses keep piling up.
Copycats.
I've been banging the same drum. But the notes and the lipstick messages.
Evelyn Summers, Cartel Classic Carmine. Each woman, same brand, same color.
Teresa Terrelson didn't have a lipstick message.
Or Moeller.
Technically, you're right, Rusty. She didn't have any lipstick. But she did have a message. We found it beneath her dress, scraped with a sharp stick.
What did it say?
You sure you want to know?
Ray?
As far as we can be sure, it said cunt BD.
That's one way of looking at it.
Looking at what?
Cunt is all about access, Phelps. You're married, yours is mortgaged. Some of us like to pay by installments. This guy doesn't like to pay at all.
Why are you so angry, Mal?
Because I just had to fire one of my assistants. He was a friend of Jameson's. God knows what he might have been up to.
Captain, we have good leads in the Summers case, but it's up to you to decide how we proceed.
Keep this under your hat for now. And to follow up on Evelyn Summers, I want daily reports.
Well, assuming we don't solve it within a day like all the other cases.
Mouthpiece first strips off me at the grand jury. Case got
We
thrown
got
out.
our orders.
Now the
Back
DA
to the
wants
Summers
my head.
case. Get an address for McCaffrey. He'll have blown the bar. I'll meet you outside.
Let me guess. Hiding from the wife?
What, at the police station?
I swear, this town is going straight to hell.
Operator, give me R&I.
Putting you through now.
Phelps, badge 1247.
How could I help, Detective?
Think those Vice boys get in?
I need an address for a Grosvenor McCaffrey.
Grosvenor McCaffrey. Apartment 6, 126 Yale Street, between Ord and Alpine.
Thanks.
Amazing that you didn't need Cole to spell that out.
I want to make homicide. I mean, you know you've made it if you got that desk.
Front desk clerk doesn't have anything to say. Alright, let's go. I don't know. Bring in Grosvenor McCaffrey.
Can you drive to this one?
Let me pose a question. Depends. What you got to do with it? Morals. Would it bother you to put the wrong person away? Depends. On what? On whether anyone except the poor son of a bitch in the Slam River found out.
That is a great moral compass you've got there.
McCaffrey is in apartment 6.
Now, the question is, what floor is that? Ah, here we are.
Doesn't look like anybody's home.
Okay. Means there's nobody to let us in. You want to do the honors, Phelps?
Apparently he does. Oh dear. This is looking familiar.
He said he was at home. He said he didn't know her. And we have the book.
Let's see Carruthers argue his way out of this one.
Is that you, Grosvenor? Who are you guys? What are you doing in here?
We're from the LAPD, ma'am. Do you know where we might find McCaffrey?
I'm his neighbor. Is he in trouble?
Look, lady, we need to find him, and in a hurry. Are you going to give me trouble?
He has a pigeon coop up on the roof. He spends his mornings up there when he's been drinking.
How do we get up there?
Down the hall and up the stairs.
Drunk and in command of a carrier pigeon. Surely we can write him up for that. A citation, at least.
And a blood-spattered shirt. You know, something else I've been kind of wondering about. how come they never show their badges? I'm pretty sure cops, even in the 1940s, would flash their badges.
Incidental.
But it never comes up here. I mean, it would seem like a simple, repetitive animation, something you could easily put in for situations when you're, meeting a witness or a neighbor like that.
Torn from the letter we found beside the body. At the very least, I'd say it ties McCaffrey to the scene.
Not really. Ties McCaffrey to the purse. But the purse doesn't have to be at the scene. And for the record, we could have gone up to the roof in the first place.
Another commendation?
What's your beef with this guy?
That was completely accidental, but totally worth it.
Grosvenor McCaffrey! Running on a hangover, McCaffrey? Sit down and we'll talk.
I'm gonna get our wheels.
Pretty sure the running down a fire escape animation is just the running up the fire escape animation run in reverse.
You a runner, McCaffrey? Stay and fight the good fight.
There he is, officer!
I wonder if getting into a car will ever actually matter here. Well, guess not.
McCaffrey, you're under arrest on suspicion of murdering Evelyn Summers.
We need to get downtown and wrap this thing up. It's got to be the cap. Unless Tiernan set him up. You don't think that asshole Jameson did it, do you? Whoever did it. At least it wasn't that Italian.
How do you know that McCaffrey didn't do the dog?
We have a list of over 200 suspects. His name was never on it.
If you think the list is exhaustive, Rusty, who am I to argue?
Listen, let's just work the case at hand, shall we? Then we can sit down and put all the puzzle pieces together at a later date.
I'll hold you to that.
I'd argue that he didn't memorize a list of 200 names, but Grosvenor McCaffrey is pretty memorable. Looks like we're doing the old two-suspect interview again.
You sure you can make it stick with one of these suspects, gentlemen?
It's either McCaffrey or Tiernan, sir. I think Jameson is an aberration.
All right. I'll deal with that degraded lunatic myself. He's got some fearful retribution coming. Tiernan isn't one, McCaffrey isn't two. I want a confession from one of them.
Did you ever notice that the ceilings are metal tiles?
Hey, can you give me a hand? I got a hard case I need to break.
Why did you run, Tiernan?
I was the last one to see Evelyn that night. I knew you would think it was me.
Can you describe your relationship with Evelyn?
I barely knew Evelyn.
Keep lying to me and I'll have you charged and in front of a grand jury before your feet touch the ground.
How can you possibly prove Evelyn and I were more than friends?
McCaffrey gave you up, Tiernan. He says he saw you go into your hotel with Evelyn.
I met Evelyn at the public library. We would read for a while and then go for a drink. Last night, we went back to my hotel room and had some more to drink. I must have passed out. I woke up and she was gone.
What time was this?
Around midnight, maybe later.
And there's no one who can confirm this.
No, there isn't. I knew you wouldn't believe me.
Aristotle's Metaphysics, the book that belonged to McCaffrey.
McCaffrey saw her looking at it once and laughed in her face.
And you're saying Evelyn stole it?
She wanted something of his.
We either hang this on you or McCaffrey. You better give us something.
Well, McCaffrey's been in trouble with the law before. I mean, he always makes out it was some kind of labor dispute, but, you know, I'm not so sure.
You and Evelyn were drinking together last night, and she had no other place to stay.
I don't know what happened last night. I don't remember.
You're lying, Tiernan. You'd been fighting with her. You fought, and...
I'm not lying! She got up and left, that was it!
Except that we do know that there was a fight.
She left, but she came back. She bought you a quart of whiskey to make it up to you. She told the liquor store owner. You're in deep trouble, buddy.
She said she loved me. She wanted to care for me. But she would never stop talking about McCaffrey. McCaffrey was a writer, and McCaffrey was a hero, and McCaffrey cared for the little guy.
Did you kill her, Tiernan?
I might as well have. I kicked her out. She had nowhere to go.
Do you own a car, Tiernan?
No, I don't.
Have access to a lug wrench?
Well, we use a lot of them to clear jams in the pin setting machines.
Coroner's report says that Evelyn was killed with a wrench. I think you did it and then planted the evidence at McCaffrey's apartment for us to find.
We went to his apartment. McCaffrey was up on the roof. Evelyn stole the book. McCaffrey went crazy when he found out. He said he would put her out of her misery. He can be very cruel.
Evelyn was missing a ring from her right hand.
That's strange. She always wore it. Big black circular disc with a white E in the middle. It was made from an old typewriter key, a present from the prop department at her old movie studio.
We're going to talk to McCaffrey. You need to think about what you've told us, Tiernan. You're not in the clear.
But yeah, to do this in the fewest possible visits, you need to visit Tiernan first, so you can get Tiernan's accusation, which we will then confront McCaffrey with.
445. I want to stop him with one round.
You ready to answer some questions?
You think I have all the answers?
People who run from the police usually have something to hide.
Touché, detective. Let's see where this takes us.
Smug asshole.
Evelyn died sometime around midnight. Remind me, where were you?
I was at home, writing. I'm working on a manuscript.
You're lying, McCaffrey. You were out at the rail yard.
And what do you have that proves I was there?
Technically it doesn't, but this is why Cole mentioned this earlier.
How about half of Augusta Summers' last correspondence with her daughter?
What are you talking about?
After you were done beating Evelyn, you searched her and found her mother's letter. That old lady's anguish amused you.
I know nothing about a letter or Evelyn's goddamn mother.
So what was it doing on your writing desk?
I don't know, but if I didn't put it there, somebody else did. Try exercising your powers of deduction on that.
We found the lug wrench that Evelyn was battered with in your apartment, and the note from her mother, and your blood-stained clothing. We have you cold, McCaffrey.
You think if I could be bothered to murder Evelyn Summers, I would be stupid enough to leave the evidence in my apartment?
He's got a point with that.
I don't believe you, Grosvenor. The evidence says that you killed her.
You can prove that I wanted to kill Evelyn?
Actually, we can.
Tiernan is is prepared to testify that you threatened Evelyn's life in his presence.
Self-preservation. That's understandable. Okay, I'll level with you. Tiernan killed Evelyn. He came to me for help. I listened to him, and he explained why he did it.
Tiernan went to you for help. You expect me to buy that?
That's how it went down. I told him he made a terrible mistake, but he would be throwing his life away if he went to the cops. I took his things and told him I would dispose of them.
But you didn't.
Speak to Tiernan. He'll give it up.
Indeed we will. But first, a phone call.
Boys, get any on the side?
Operator, message for KGPL.
Putting you through now.
Phelps, 1247.
How could I help, Detective?
I need the jacket on a Grosvenor McCaffrey.
Just a moment, Detective.
Whoa.
McCaffrey was formerly under surveillance by the Red Squad. Convictions for petty theft. Dishonorable discharge from the Army during training at Syracuse. Assault on a local woman. Says he almost beat the woman to death.
Thank you.
Suddenly a completely different voice.
No.
You spoken to McCaffrey? I can go, it's all been cleared up?
Not quite. We have one more question we need to ask, James. Then I think we will be done.
Sure. Go ahead.
So Evelyn passed out, and you walked out. What happened next?
I woke up in the morning, very hungover. I thought Evelyn would have come back.
I know you're lying, James. You went out looking for her. Tell me what really happened.
I don't know what you're talking about. How can you say I wasn't in that hotel room?
Because of the other accusation.
You wound up at McCaffrey's. You were still incredibly drunk. You passed out on his floor. It's time to tell me what really happened.
McCaffrey woke me up the next morning, and he showed me the lug wrench and the letter and the box, and he said I came in with him last night. He said that I killed Evelyn, and that it was all over the radio, and that he would protect me. And I don't know, Detective, for the life of me, I can't remember a goddamn thing. I was angry with her. Really angry. I could have done it. Was it me?
We'll say no.
Wait here.
At least for now. Because once again, we are going to go after the more politically expedient suspect.
You were in the war?
Yes, I was. Seeing the things that I saw, it changes a man. I came back here determined to change things. All I wanted was a pen and an opportunity to speak out.
You told us before that you had only minor run-ins with the police. You didn't mention petty theft.
I've never been in trouble for violence. That's the salient point here, isn't it?
It is.
You're lying, McCaffrey. You have a history of violence towards women.
How do you turn a couple parking tickets and a petty theft misdemeanor into an assault charge?
Does he just assume that we can't look up his criminal record or something?
We know all about you and your dishonorable discharge. Beating some poor woman near to death in Syracuse. You've never been in combat, McCaffrey. Your whole life is a fraud.
She was a goddamn peasant whore! She tried to steal from my wallet. I could have fought for this country. I could have...
You beat her because she stole from you. Because she tried to outsmart you.
The ignorant audacity of the bitch. What is a man supposed to do? Sit there and take it? How is a man supposed to call himself a man?
And Evelyn Summers, a poor, drunken nobody, stole your book.
And she got what was coming to her!
Whoops.
Grosvenor McCaffrey, I'm charging you with the murder of Evelyn Summers. She was a sad lady who never hurt anyone except herself. I hope God finds a way to forgive you.
Congratulations, boys. You bagged the fine catch. Another red to boot. Grand. Now, I want you to put this business about a repeat offender out of your mind. This McCaffrey creature shows no remorse, and neither will the grand jury. You would have to walk a long mile to find a better candidate for an unmarked plot in the prison graveyard.
Minor damage to vehicles into the city, but still enough for 5 stars.
We have lost most of Shaughnessy and Dunn's squad. The gunny is dead, first platoon is in worse shape. That medic is either crazy or the bravest man alive.
Then we rally with the first and try for the Nambus!
It's sheer to the left. To the right, it goes right through a pass with 2 Nambus and enfilade.
Mate,
we can lose everyone!
Lieutenant! Get back off this fucking bridge! They'll start walking the mortars back to their own positions! We only have minutes! I'm in charge here, Sergeant! Get your men off the bridge, Lieutenant! What's your unit, Sergeant? We don't have time for this, Lieutenant! What's your unit, Sergeant? I company 22nd Marines, Lieutenant, and we just saved your ass by fording the river. My orders are to reconnoiter the... I think that point is now moot! You have 10 men left! My orders are to save what's left! Move out!
When you ask a person on the street to name a noir film, The Maltese Falcon is probably the title you'll hear most often. However, if you were to ask a noir fan to name the most noir picture out there, the one with the best combination of fame and success, visual design, writing, acting, and everything else, the 2 words you'll most likely hear are Double Indemnity. The story about the story. Throughout the decades when the Hollywood production code was enforced, studios were always pushing against the boundaries of censorship. You remember The Postman Always Rings Twice? MGM sat on the film rights for that book for years because the subject matter was so racy, and the only reason they decided to produce it finally is because of the success of Double Indemnity. Double Indemnity, released by Paramount in 1944, is about adultery and murder. And since it's the protagonists who engage in both, you can see why it might get the censor's attention. The movie was based on a novella by James M. Cain, the same man who authored Postman, which explains the similarities. And the screenplay was written by Billy Wilder, the director, with the help of Raymond Chandler, the guy who wrote that awesome dialogue in The Big Sleep. You'd almost think so many good authors collaborating on a single piece would turn a good work into garbage, but somehow everything just came together. The production did have some trouble getting actors to play the lead roles, mostly because nobody wanted to be associated with a pair of murderous adulterers. Still, they eventually found Fred McMurray to be the leading man, and this is particularly interesting considering that his usual roles were easygoing comedies. Later in life, he would be a sitcom dad in My 3 Sons, which ran for 12 years, and he was Ned Brainerd in Disney's Absent-Minded Professor. The fact that he was so good at playing a regular stand-up guy, and by all reports he was one in real life too, it was a brilliant piece of casting. He doesn't look like a murderous adulterer, and he's not supposed to. The role of leading lady, meanwhile, eventually went to Barbara Stanwyck, who had to be talked into it by Billy Wilder, but who was willing to try something new since she was getting up in years and needed to transition into different kinds of roles. To say that this paid off for her is an understatement. as her career continued going strong on into the late 50s. Also, for the record, Stanwyck was a natural brunette, and she wears an intentionally fake-looking wig throughout Double Indemnity. The story. We begin with our protagonist, Walter Neff, heading into the Pacific All Risk office, the insurance company where he works. He's moving very slowly and deliberately, and favoring his left arm, but it's not until he sits down at his desk that we see why. He got shot in the shoulder. Slowly, he loads a wax cylinder into his dictaphone and begins telling his story, making this the second noir I've covered to have a narrator. Neff is relating his confession of a murder. As he puts it, I did it for the money, and I did it for a woman. I didn't get the money, and I didn't get the woman. Neff's story begins with him going up to a house in the Los Angeles hills to talk with the owner, Mr. Diedrichson, about renewing his auto insurance. Turns out the man of the house isn't in, but his wife is, and she's in a bath towel because she was sunbathing. Neff appreciates the view. When she comes down later fully dressed, Neff is also rather entranced by her anklet. As Neff discusses insurance policies, Mrs. Phyllis Diedrichson asks him about accident insurance. He says that yes, they cover that, and then the two of them start flirting, using a traffic stop as a double entendre. She tells him to come back the next day at 8 p.m., so he heads back to the office. At the office, we meet the supporting protagonist, Barton Keyes. Keyes is, well, Double Indemnity is remarkably close to Columbo's format, and in large part it's because Keyes has a lot in common with Lieutenant Columbo. Keyes happens to be a remarkably good claims manager who gets gut feelings which tell him when a claim is phony. As Neff walks in, Keyes is turning down a claim for a burned-out truck because his gut feeling led him to evidence that proved the guy burned it himself. The scene is mostly just to establish Keyes as a character, and the only big plot moment is when Neff lights a match with his thumb for Keyes' cigar, which is both a running motif and a way for Fred McMurray to show off a neat trick. When Neff gets to his own office, he sees a letter from Phyllis. The letter asks him to come by on a Thursday afternoon instead of the next day at 8, and even though he knows he shouldn't, he goes along with it. When he gets to the house, Phyllis is there alone. Apparently, she thought that her husband would be there, but he's not. And coincidentally, it's the maid's day off. As soon as they sit down, Phyllis starts talking about accident insurance again. She says she's worried about all of the danger around the oil fields where her husband works. Neff suggests talking with Mr. Diedrichson about it, but Phyllis insists that he wouldn't agree. She then suggests that maybe she could take out a policy for her husband, without him knowing. But as soon as she says that, Neff realizes what she really means by it, and leaves. Unfortunately, much like in Postman, the attraction between Neff and Phyllis is too strong, and when she comes to his apartment at 8 o'clock, he lets her in. After a few words, they share an intense kiss, and then a glass of bourbon. Phyllis explains that she married her husband mostly to have a home, and also because she pitied him after his first wife died while she was her nurse. She also isn't fond of her daughter-in-law, Lola. Neff warns Phyllis against taking out a policy and then trying to pull something, but it gets him to thinking about how he occasionally wondered how to pull off the perfect insurance fraud. We cut to Neff narrating in the middle of this, and when we cut back, Neff and Phyllis are in different positions on the couch. Neff is having a cigarette, and Phyllis is fixing her makeup. It's a nice, subtle way of implying that the two just had sex off camera. In that time, Neff has also decided to help Phyllis. Neff starts by talking to Diedrichson about accident insurance in front of a witness, his daughter, Lola, and then tricking him into signing the application by calling it a duplicate. In the process, we find out that Diedrichson is heading to Palo Alto for a Stanford reunion, so Neff tells Phyllis to make him take the train. The policy has a double indemnity clause that pays double the cash payout, or $100,000, if the person covered dies on a train. Oh, and Neff also winds up giving a ride to Lola, who doesn't want her father to know she's seeing a man named Nino Zacchetti. Neff and Phyllis start having clandestine meetings at a food mart to work out the details. During one of these meetings, Phyllis says that Diedrichson broke his leg and won't be going to Stanford. So Neff says they'll just have to wait, no matter how antsy Phyllis is getting. A week later, Keyes comes into Neff's office and offers to make him his assistant. That's when Phyllis calls and says the trip to Stanford is back on. He'll be on crutches, but he could make it. So Neff gets the color of his suit from her and then heads out to establish his alibi. He makes sure the man in his apartment garage sees him parking. He calls a coworker to get some information he could supposedly work on through the evening. He sticks bits of paper into the phone and doorbells to let him know if someone tried to contact him, and he walks to the Diedrichson house and sneaks into their car. And on the way to the station, Neff kills Diedrichson. Once they get there, Neff uses Diedrichson's crutches and a roll of bandages to fake a cast, and Phyllis runs interference so that none of the train staff can get a good look at him. Neff runs into some trouble when he finds a man named Jackson on the observation deck, but he manages to talk Jackson into going back into the train to get something for him long enough to jump off the back. Phyllis is already waiting for him, and so they drag Diedrichson's body out to the tracks, experience a little car trouble, and then leave. 2 days pass, and the insurance company's boss, Mr. Norton, brings Neff and Keyes in to talk about the case. Keyes doesn't have so much as a hunch, but that's not acceptable to Mr. Norton. He suspects suicide of all things, and he brings Phyllis in to grill her on whether her husband had been feeling depressed. However, Phyllis acts offended and storms out. Keyes then explains why his boss is wrong by listing off all the statistical reasons why it's unlikely a man would try to commit suicide by jumping off the back of a slow-moving train. That evening, Phyllis goes to meet with Neff, but before she gets there, Keyes shows up. Turns out that his gut feeling is back because Diedrichson didn't use his accident insurance to make a claim on his broken leg. Plus, the timing of the accident is just too coincidental. There's a particularly tense moment where Phyllis has to hide behind Neff's door, and after that, Neff insists that Phyllis can't see him anymore since Keyes is going to have her shadowed. Later on, Lola comes to visit Neff to talk about her real mother, and how, while she was sick with pneumonia, her nurse, Phyllis, apparently removed her bed covers and opened the windows while no one was looking. And that's not how you take care of someone with a fever. I mean, you shouldn't bundle them up too much, but exposure to the elements is also pretty bad. Lola also noticed Phyllis trying on her mourning outfit 2 days before her father died. Neff's response is to take her out to dinner and then the beach, so that she'll forget about telling other people what she saw. A couple of days later, Keyes brings Neff into his office. Keyes has figured out that Diedrichson was never on the train, that someone else took his place so that they could plant the body later. And he's brought in the man on the observation deck, Jackson, to confirm that the man he saw wasn't the man who died. Neff is quite naturally nervous around Jackson, but he doesn't recognize him. Still, Keyes now knows that Phyllis had a partner in crime. Neff and Phyllis meet again in the food mart, and Neff says it's time to walk away from the insurance money and avoid suing so that Keyes can't bring his evidence to court. Neff says it's to protect both their necks, but Phyllis thinks it's because he's feeling sorry for Lola, whom he's continued to date. She refuses to back down now. Later on, Neff and Lola go up into the hills near the Hollywood Bowl, and Lola says that she suspects her old beau, Nino. Nino has been going in and out of Phyllis's house recently, and she thinks he only dated her as a blind. Plus, he has no alibi for the night of the murder. The next day, Keyes tells Neff that he's found the other guy Phyllis was working with, and Neff suspects he's playing with him. As such, he sneaks into Keyes' office and finds out from his dictaphone that Neff was a suspect, but Keyes prefers Nino Zacchetti as the perp. Seeing a way out, Neff calls Phyllis and arranges to meet her at her house at 11 p.m. When he gets there, Neff tells Phyllis that he's getting out now while he still can, and he accuses her of using him just because he knows a little about insurance. She might have been masterminding things with Zacchetti all along, or she might not have, but to him, it no longer matters. Still, she clarifies that she was working on Zacchetti to build him into a jealous rage against Lola so that he'd remove that particular problem for her. Now, before Neff can probably strangle Phyllis so he can pin it on Zacchetti, who will be arriving soon after with the police, Phyllis pulls a gun and shoots Neff in the shoulder. She only missed the vitals, by the way, because it was dark. And since this is a movie and not real life, Neff's response to getting shot is smarmy sarcasm rather than falling over or crying out in pain. He barely even flinches. As Neff approaches Phyllis, she lowers the gun and admits that she was using him, and everyone. But she realized she was in love with Neff because she couldn't fire that second shot. It's hard to say if she's lying here or not, mostly because Neff doesn't take any chances and shoots her twice with her own gun. At this point, we've caught up to where the narration begins. Turns out Keyes showed up at some point during the confession thanks to a tip from the porter, who saw blood on the tile. Keyes wants to call a doctor, but Neff would rather try to get to Mexico, or at least bleed out on his own. Of course, by this point, Neff has lost so much blood that he doesn't even manage to get out the office front door, and Keyes calls an ambulance anyway. As Keyes lights Neff's cigarette, reversing the usual order of things, the movie ends, leaving things ambiguous as to whether Neff dies there or dies in the gas chamber. Final thoughts. You know, there's something else I've been talking around rather than about, and that would be the Hays Code. See, here's the thing about early motion pictures. They weren't covered by the First Amendment. Censorship was all the rage a century ago, and various states had censorship boards which would shut down play productions, ban books from store shelves and libraries, and revoke the licenses of movie theaters which displayed films without getting the board's approval first. And to top it all off, in 1915, the Supreme Court declared 9-0 that motion pictures were too much of a for-profit business to be worthy of First Amendment protections. I guess they just weren't paying attention to the cutthroat competition going on at the time between the also-for-profit newspapers. Anyway, this ruling meant that state censorship boards could keep growing, and it also meant that banned films were cutting into studio profit margins. And keep in mind that they were buying up theater chains like crazy at this point. If a censorship board revoked a theater's license, it was a total loss to the studio. They managed to keep things informal for a while by avoiding the most obvious pitfalls and making up for the losses thanks to the immense profits they were getting from a new form of media. But in the 1920s, the concept of Hollywood excess began to appear, and it forced the studios onto the defensive. In 1922, they formed a lobbying group named the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America, MPPDA, and they hired the Washington politician William H. Hays to be their chief lobbyist. In this capacity, he created a list of don'ts and be carefuls based on what the censorship boards were most likely to look for. In 1930, the advent of talkies got the censors to start paying attention again, leading to the Motion Picture Production Code, also known as the Hays Code because of where it came from. At first, few films bothered to abide by it, but then in 1934, Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish organizations got together and started boycotting Hollywood films in the middle of the Great Depression. With their very survival on the line, the studios agreed to start enforcing the production code. All except for United Artists, of course. Because, well, it's United Artists. But even they would tone things down during the 30s and 40s, since the state censorship boards were still alive and well. In 1952, thanks to an uncensored Italian short film named of all things The Miracle, the Supreme Court reversed their earlier decision, again with a unanimous vote, and they declared that motion pictures were a protected medium for free speech, marking the beginning of the end of the censorship era. The end of the studio system also helped, since it meant that cinemas and cinema chains were free to show any movies they wanted to, and the state censorship boards were losing the power to stop them. By the early 60s, the production code was defunct, and by the late 60s, the MPPDA, now known as the MPAA, instituted a rating system to replace the code. It's just as arbitrary as the old censorship rules ever were, but at least now it's a guideline rather than an absolute restriction. Thanks for joining me again for today's film review, and I hope you'll join me next time for a famous film that's vaguely based on an equally famous serial killer.